Illumination series as well as Yambani Chronicles, and I'm joined once again by Jocelyn Short.
Hello.
She is a concept artist and illustrator. She's the creator of Bearers. She's done a few concepts for me and other people that we know and love. And if you're interested in her art, there will be a link in the description along with a link to my author website, so you can check those out and get them for yourself, my books and her art. Today we are once again talking Monarch Legacy of Monsters. In particular, we are talking about episode 3, Secrets and Lies. So if you have not watched up into that moment, spoiler alert. I believe there are 4 episodes out currently, and the 5th one is going to be released on Friday. So week we'll be watching episode 4 before we talk next week. So we start with Shaw in the crew, Colonel Shaw now, the older version in 2015. Right. And I wrote some notes down. I was like, the Shaw and the crew escape. I'm like, where are they escaping? And the old folks home. Basically, the Japanese Shady Acres that doubles as a black site where government keeps their old operatives, apparently, with the house arrest bracelet on their ankle to keep tabs on them so they don't snitch, I guess. Which was funny. And they escape. Because we leave off where the second episode left off when they found him. Mm-hmm. He was like, you can either believe that BS that Monarch is telling you, or we can leave and find out what really happened to your pops.
Yeah.
Obviously, they choose to leave. They get on, I think, what looked like a ferry, like a big boat with a bunch of cars on it. They leave Japan.
Yeah.
They had the crazy driving scene.
Car chase.
Yeah, the mini car chase. They leave.
He said, how you turn the car on?
Yeah, he's like, hit the button. He's like, the button? He's like, when's the last time you drove? He was like, if it's got wheels, floats on water, or goes to the air, I can drive it, whatever it is. It's like, okay, well, you know.
How do you cut it on? What do you do?
Yeah. Yeah, he had to figure that out. And then they get on the boat, and once again, Kate is having a hissy fit. I'm like, where are you going to go? She gets out the van and walks along.
Literally, no, yeah. I was like, where we going? What are we doing? She said, I'm
like Kevin Hart.
Upset.
Yeah, like Kevin Hart when his crazy Nate, the security guard that was holding the dude with his belly. You remember that?
Yeah.
He's like, that's what I felt like someone should have did to Kate. Like, where you going? Where you going? What you doing? Like, where are you gonna go? Like, you have no passport, you ain't got no money, you ain't got no ID. You just out in limbo right now in foreign waters. You're gonna throw a fit and leave somewhere.
My dad sucks.
Yeah.
Stormed away.
That's interesting. And then we have another flashback, of course. Which, are you still liking the flashbacks? The back and forth time jumps?
I don't mind them. Yeah, I don't mind them. I think just more is happening, I guess, with the flashbacks now. So I don't really. They didn't seem stupid before, but they seem, I don't know.
They're more controlled because it seems to be only, at least now, in the first episodes seem to be all over the place.
Yeah, yeah.
And at least now it's mainly 2 timelines that we're concentrating on.
Mm-hmm.
And so we see that Lieutenant Shaw, we're back in 1954, has enlisted the help of the Army, and they invited a general over to see what they've been working on. Mm-hmm. And he thinks they've got a fossil in this like big, it's not even a warehouse, it's like a old airplane hangar or something. That's like wide open space. Mm-hmm. And you see this big, I'm like, how did they lift this footprint in Indonesia?
I was thinking that the whole episode. I was like, how did y'all get this footprint here?
And nobody saw it? And nobody saw what left it?
Right. And I'm like, was it just the 3 of y'all? How did y'all do this? How did y'all unearth it? Like, it was in dirt? Like, how did y'all dry out this whole footprint in order to lift it out of the ground solidly?
Yeah.
Because it's not, like, it's not like it's today where you could like scan it and create like a reproduction of it.
Replica of it, yeah, somewhere. Yeah. Like a giant 3D printer somewhere. They're 3D printing houses now. So
yeah, but like that was the footprint. And I'm like, what do y'all need funded for if you can do this?
Yeah. And that's the whole thing. They're there. We find out later that they're there to try and get funding to keep the research going. And they basically want uranium
Yeah.
to lure, using the radiation within the uranium to attract something. They're thinking they're going to observe it. I was like, how did you? Later on, we see what they end up doing because we're about to go to another forward jump. But in my mind, I was like, how did Shaw think that the government or the U.S. Army was going to respond when you tell them this is an existential global threat? Like, you thought they were just going to be cool with taking pictures? Like, we're just gonna science it up and then do some research.
I'm like, the
I'm like, if
U.S.
you didn't see what was
military
coming
is
next, you
not.
kind of.
Yeah, I'm like, the U.S. military is not a research facility. They're gonna shoot first and ask questions later.
Monica says the footprint was a mold based on the dimensions on and grid of the actual footprint. It's a replica.
Oh, okay.
Well, she caught that detail and I didn't because I
I
just
did not. I was like, how did y'all do this? Oh, thank you. Oh, on my website. Thank you, Monica. On my website, jocelynshort.com, and there's a tab on the top of the website that says shop. And you can go to my shop and you can buy art prints there.
is that the jocelynshort.card.co?
So jocelynshort.card.co has all of my links on them. My shop is also on there as well.
Okay. I'm about to put it in the chat.
Okay.
So there you go.
Thank you for
Appreciate you.
asking.
So yeah, that I mean, if I was, I don't know if that was communicated well that was a replica.
I had no idea.
Yeah,
And if it was a detail I missed it hard because I was
yeah,
just like, oh my god, y'all are wizards.
yeah. They did some, especially for back then in the
Yeah.
50s. So then we flash forward again to 2015, uh, and they're this is when we come back to them on the ferry. I'm
Mhm,
assuming to Korea on that big ship,
mhm.
and then we find out that May digitized the files. She's like, okay, and didn't want to tell. You could see there was a look on, I'm gonna call him Ken for short, on
Mhm.
Ken's face when he realized that she'd already digitized what he deems as his files. Like, it's mine. You need to give it to me. It belongs to me. Type. When
He's an international super spy. Super spy.
and that's like Shaw. Once he said we got to get rid of these bags, you know what I mean? Because we get an eager beaver that finds one of these on us, and they're gonna throw up the red flag, and we'll be done for.
Mhm.
And then we also they talk about when Monarch was formed, and he
Mhm.
says the 40s ish is
Yeah.
the time period.
Yeah.
And then I think Mayor or somebody, it might have been Kate, one of them makes a comment, wouldn't that make you like 90 years old?
Yeah.
So I'm wondering, like, okay, so what is keeping Shaw young?
Mm.
I guess we'll find that out later.
It's interesting. I just took it as it was. Like, oh,
Okay.
you look good for 90. But that's a good point. Most 90-year-olds don't look like that at all. So
No.
like 90, like they're good looking 90-year-olds, but like not like that. So that's a
Yeah.
good point.
And then Kate continues to be a brat, just whining about stuff. I mean, I understand why she's upset. That whole situation, I get. But now that you're out here on a limb, and I'm like, both her and Ken are weird that way.
Yeah.
Then we flip back to 54, where they set up the nuke trap. Uh, how do they have a picture of Godzilla? Because he hasn't made like an official appearance yet. I don't think in 1954. At
Really?
least not where they're because they're not aware that these things exist. But then you see when they go to the new site where they have the nuke set up that the soldier has painted a like a head shot of Godzilla with the scales on the back of his neck and then draws the Ghostbusters circle with a slash through it.
Oh, okay, you're right.
Yeah,
That's a good point. I didn't even think about it.
yeah. And so, I'm like, how do they have a pick? And how are they sitting this close to a nuclear explosion with like these Adirondack lawn chairs, some umbrellas, and they bring out these sunglass goggles? That's what they're going to watch this nuclear explosion with. It doesn't seem far. I mean, I don't know how far away is safe to be from a nuclear blast, but they're like within eye shot of both Godzilla that pops out and this bomb is just sitting there, and they're on these beach chairs.
I mean, listen, I don't know anything, but I definitely feel like if you're watching a nuclear explosion, you would be behind some kind of glass. You would maybe
Something,
have a rad suit on.
something.
Like, even if you're outside, like, you just, I don't know what's going on here.
Yeah, this is a weird ass military beach day. They just set up these lawn chairs with the equipment. They
I
just,
said, wow.
yeah. I'm like, this is crazy. And obviously, the two Keiko and Bill realize, okay, this is not what we wanted to learn,
Mhm.
and y'all here to blow some stuff up. And even I think the general Shaw says to him, "We didn't want it in bomb form," and he's like, "You should have been more specific. You wanted the uranium, but you didn't tell us," which is true. He said uranium, and he named a specific amount. And I remember the general making a comment like, "That's more than we dropped on Japan." So he was just thinking strictly the uranium. He was like, "Yeah, we got uranium, but it's in these bombs. We can't." This is how they come. This is you ask for our support. This is what it is.
I feel like they were going to get it in bombs, whether or not he specified not bombs or not. Like,
Yeah, because that's seems the unfortunately the man way, the human way of doing things. Oh, I don't know what that is. Okay, let's blow it up. That's how we figure out to just blow it up.
the whole thing reminded me. I don't. Did you ever play Final Fantasy X? Did you play that?
Not 10. I played 7.
Okay. The whole thing reminded me of a cutscene in Final Fantasy X where they did something very similar, where there was like a military force and it was an operation to attack Sin, which is the big monster in the game.
Okay.
And I was kind of hoping that this scene would go the way it went in Final Fantasy X, which is where they lost.
Okay.
Like they attacked it and like the monster obliterated them. Like there were people, who knew that they would get obliterated and were trying to warn them,
Yeah.
but it was like hubris and just like kind of a last ditch effort to try to win.
Yeah.
And I was kind of hoping that like Godzilla would win, and but that's not what happened.
Yeah. We can, and a lot of shows and movies and sci-fi stuff in general, which I think is, funnily enough, I think is true to life. We're either too cautious or not cautious enough.
Yeah,
There's like no middle ground where we're kind of doing the sensible thing given the circumstances. It's like finding like an alien species of plant and someone walks up and just touches it without knowing anything about it, or they just try and eradicate it. Ooh, that's toxic. Let's just put a flame to it, destroy it. And I don't think that's going to work in this case. I guess we'll see, because then they flash forward again to 2015 and they're still on the ferry and we see May. Who do you think May's talking to on the phone?
I don't know. I was thinking about that. I was like,
Yeah, I might come back. I'm
I
leaving
thought
right
it was
now.
I thought it was a lover. I thought it was a lover. Um, that's what it sounded like to me.
Like a
But
love interest?
yeah, like
Ken thinks that because he seemed jealous. I was like, why are you creeping on a girl right there? Like, let her have her space and talk on the phone. She obviously, if she wanted to have the conversation in your presence, I don't think she would have got up with the phone and stepped out to talk. Like,
right.
read, like old boy said, read the room. Like, and Ken is always loud and wrong. my boy, my boy is like, why should we listen to you? And this is one of my favorite parts of this episode, because Shaw kind of puts him in his place without having to do so. He's like, all right, you got it. You're right. He wasn't my daddy. He was yours. This is your stuff. When we get to Pohang, where do we go? What are we going to do? What's the plan? And he's just sitting there dumbfounded inside.
Yeah. Like you don't know what time it is. You don't
Yeah.
know what's going on.
So, and your plan to get us, you wanted to go straight to Alaska. That's what you want to do, because Do you know he has no clue what he's like?
You don't have no tools. You don't know nobody out there. You don't even have no coat talking about you gonna go to Alaska.
Yeah, and I wondered about that later. I'm like, where'd they get these coats from? All of a sudden, they got all this stuff. I'm thinking maybe because May had all that. She had the money. She had the bug out bag ready to go. So
Yeah,
they had some, and I'm assuming Shaw has some resources as well. They dumped the files in the ocean, and I'm wondering if Monarch didn't already have those files because they went through May's apartment pretty thoroughly. They were like anything because it was still they had to still the files were up on screen because you could see the same screen that she was looking at before they got there was up on her screen. It wasn't like she had shut down the computer and hit something to delete everything. Uh,
maybe maybe she's like a super um, IT person and encoded uh, the data real good so
yeah,
that they couldn't access it.
maybe, but I mean, then again, you wouldn't be able to look at the stuff on the screen if that was the case. I don't know.
Fair enough.
Yeah, and
I
so
don't
then
know anything.
what happened?
I just said I don't know anything. So
Okay, I was just wondering, but we get a hint to it later because Tim mentions that they have Randa's files. So assuming he's still going after them, think either because I think they already have the files, or
mhm.
there's more information he's hoping that them and Shaw can lead them to is the reason why he's so hell bent on getting them. Um, but they get to customs in Korea, and this was like a scene from Meet the Parents to me
Mhm.
because Shaw said he mentions terrorist. And then this, right after that, he was not like we've been to North Korea. He mentioned terrorists in North Korea right there, which he knew would set off some red flags in South Korea. It was like oh boy in Meet the Parents when he keeps saying bomb on the plane. You can't say
Yeah.
bomb. It's like bomb, 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 bomb. It was like instant security was going to come take them or their version of TSA.
Mm-mm.
But we find out pretty quickly that the TSA guy is his boy, Duho. Is his friend within the Korean people. But they didn't know that, of course. Kate and May and Ken had no idea that this was all part of the plan. They think it's just going wrong.
Is a good ruse.
Yeah, and
Solid
they
ruse.
end up going off. Then they flip to Tim, and we see Tim getting dressed down from the Monarch because we knew that was coming for not informing his superior. Remember the old girl that finds when she flags the files from Monarch because May has been
Yeah.
going through them, they get the IP hit,
Right.
have a general direction of where to go. They know they're in Tokyo, but they don't know exactly where. That's what prompts them to leave. But remember, the person who found the files asked him, I forget who she mentions, but like, should we send this up to? I'm assuming it's the lady we see here.
Hmm.
Like, and she mentions Dr. Serizawa. You seen the 2015 Godzilla movie?
I'm not sure.
Yeah, okay.
I'm not
Only
sure.
reason I'm saying because Dr. Serizawa is played by Ken Watanabe, who
Okay.
was in the Godzilla 2015 film. So one of the people, one of the doctors that's working for Monarch, then that's chasing Godzilla, is who is mentioned here, and basically she's ready to kick Tim to the curb, make him fly back and report to everybody, and then
Hmm.
she's gonna send this agent to find Colonel Shaw and the crew, and she flips and's like, "No, I need my partner," because she's at first she's like, "Whatever you need," and she's like, "I need my partner." Crazy knows crazy. Whatever he's going to do, then he'll be able to follow it. I might not be able to catch him if my partner's
Hmm.
not with me. So she capitulates and lets them continue on. And then we see that Duho is going to take them into Alaska in what looks like a World War II era plane, like this old rust bucket he's going to put up in the sky, which is pretty funny.
He said, "Don't call it old, call it vintage." And I'm like,
Vintage,
that makes me feel worse. Like I feel less safe if
yeah,
I'm in a vintage plane. Like,
yeah. You don't want to be in a vintage plane.
yeah, I'm like, to me, it's the same. You said, like, oh, go ahead and fire off this vintage gun. I'm like, I'm gonna explode with it.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, that was pretty funny. And then they flip back to 1954, where Keiko, Bill, and Lee watch as they nuke Gojira. I doubt it died because there's so many more films. Unless that was like a baby, but and there's
I was curious about that. I was like, did it really die?
no.
It's like, is there really more than one? I thought it was just one. You know.
Yeah, no, yeah. There may have been maybe. I think there might have been iterations, but I think as time goes, Godzilla kind of evolves over time. That's why you get these different versions, and
Gotcha.
there are other Godzillas that come later. And if you're talking about the OG movies, and we've already seen. Did you watch Godzilla versus Kong?
Yes.
So then you saw Mecha Godzilla, then the
Okay.
metal one they had created.
Okay.
Yeah, so we see them. She tries to. Keiko tries to stop the nuke from going off, and Shaw stops her. She's crying at the end. What have we done? Again, all my questions are not answered as these dudes are sitting there in goggles and lawn chairs watching this nuclear explosion go off.
I'm just stressed watching it because I'm like, why would you nuke a monster? Um, like you made it like if you nuke it and it lives, now it's angry and it's gonna get his cousins to come jump us. Like,
And it's more powerful. Like she told you that when she was doing her doctorate study or whatever, that some of these things she felt were attracted to the radiation and that they fed off of it. So you just gave him a big ass Scooby snack. I don't think it's dead. I think he just recharged it. Maybe he just went back in the water and he got the itis after the explosion. You didn't. It was so quick though. During the explosion, he just melted back down into the water, and he just rubbing his belly on the bottom to the ocean right now.
he was
Y'all think that's
Popeye
it?
and the nuke was its spinach.
Yeah, basically.
Mhm.
And at the end of that scene, we find out that they got their funding. They're all happy because the general said you didn't ask for enough, and they're going to play this game of cat and mouse verbally, where they only tell Shaw what they think the general needs to know.
Mhm.
And if they hide information from him, then basically he can claim that he's not lying because that's all I know. I don't know any more than what they told me, and I'm only telling you what they've told me.
Mhm.
So it's still gonna. I don't understand how that's a go around because it's still gonna come back on them for lying.
Yeah, I
So
agree with you. That's just, I was like, I mean, if y'all like it, I love it. I suppose.
yeah. So when we flash forward again to 2015 and the crew land, they find that what we think is Pops' plane in multiple pieces in a crash site, but then they find a fully intact campsite with equipment and stuff set up. And Shaw asked the question: so if everybody died in the crash, then who set up this campsite? And they're walking around looking at the equipment and supplies. Duho notices a guideline just stuck in the snow. And so he goes over and pulls up the guideline leading to the fuselage of the plane that, of course, is broken into pieces. And that's when he notices there are claw marks on the plane. And he looks over at his plane. He looks this
Gotta
way.
go.
Yeah, he's like, "There's something here. Get out. You gotta go."
You got to
And
get
he
out.
runs to recover the plane. They come out here in the commotion, trying to get to the plane. And this big ass kaiju jumps out of the tundra, from under the snow cap, iceberg, whatever the hell they landed on. It jumped out and starts using his claws and paws to mix up the plane with Duho in it. He tries to fly around it, gets swatted, bit, and then my boy gives him the Sub-Zero treatment and just freeze fatality, rip to Duho. He's dead.
I was like, oh no,
Yeah,
defrost my man's.
yeah. Deep
Call him.
is to Duho is a wrap. Rip Duho, and now they're stuck in Alaska now. These people just seem to be like,
Just
you know
getting
what we
worse.
do? We get stuck places. It started with Kate, and then she's like a snowball or a ball of lint that just keeps rolling and just attracting more things with her. Now she's got a whole crew of people that are just stuck
I
out in
know May
Alaska.
is pissed. She's like, man, I didn't want any part of this.
But she kind of couldn't go nowhere though.
Yeah, yeah.
Excuse me. Kate couldn't go nowhere because she's in out of the country no ID, no passport. So she kind of has to roll with wherever they're taking her, unless she can
Well,
find an embassy somewhere.
I'm talking more about May. I'm like, I know May is pissed.
Yeah, because she told Kentaro that like you mixed me up in this.
Hmm.
Like I've lost my business, I've lost my home, and until I get everything back, I'm
Stop
basically
talking
rolling with y'all, and you can't tell me what I need.
to me. Until I can fix it. Stop
Yeah,
talking to me. Don't talk to me about nothing else.
yeah. So I think it's inevitable. I think we were all right. I think everybody was in agreement that Pops is not dead. He's alive out there somewhere. There's pretty much proof because his body wasn't found. They had found a body in one of the airplanes, and Kate was like, "I don't need to see him. I don't," because she thought it was gonna be Pops, and it's like, "Nope, it's not him." And that's when I think
That'd have been
Shaw,
crazy if he was in there. I was like, if he
yeah,
was about to be
that
in
would
there,
have
I
been.
was like, whoa.
You'd have got your wish. You'd have been sitting there just punching the corpse in the plane. Told you, you lying.
It's I hope it comes. I hope we get it next episode. Like I know that they were excited that he was alive and they hugged, and
That
that
was
was
was that awkward or no?
um like a little bit. It was like a mix. It was like kind of nice,
Yeah,
kind of weird, and I was like, okay. And what Andrea say last episode? She was like, oh, I kind of hope they get together or something. And I was like, did she say that? She didn't say that, right?
I don't think so. I hope not.
I hope so too. I don't know. I hope I she
You talking about like this sounds like a Game of Thrones reference right there. Like we don't need.
I don't know. I think maybe what I'm thinking she was saying was that there's weird chemistry between the two of them.
Yeah,
So I
there
don't
is.
know. It was I was like, this is okay. I mean, the hug is I was surprised by the hug. I thought they would just like look at each other and feel weird about it.
I think so too, but I think Ken wanted a physical outlet, and everybody else is pretty much off limits.
Yeah,
And the only other person there besides Shaw that could kind of, and not even him, could really understand that okay, our father is possibly still here.
right.
Because May, I think was a former love interest of Ken, but she's stiff arming him to the max. So he couldn't go grab her in a hug.
Hmm.
That was like all he was left with. It's like either you gonna give me the Heisman and shove me away too, or we just gonna accept it, as brother and sister that we have something in common to kind of feel and bond over right now. But
Yeah,
it was kind of awkward because she didn't. It didn't look like she hesitated at all.
yeah,
It kind of look up like, what?
yeah. I was very surprised about the hug. I was like, oh, okay, all right. Maybe they surprised themselves
Yeah.
with the
It's
hug.
almost like a baby or a animal that's real standoffish with you, and all of a sudden it just runs and hugs you out of nowhere, and you're like, "Oh, what? Okay, all right." That's kind of the feeling I got from it with Kate. She was like, I don't think she expected it either, but she like just took it like, okay.
Yeah,
Even though I think she still has more resentment for their father than the son does, but it's coming from the son. I think it's building slowly.
yeah.
She was already on 10 by the time she figured out what was going on, but it's taking him a
Yeah.
little time.
The hug made me a little worried that we may not get the beatdown that I hope the daddy gets.
You want the,
When,
the, the tag team brother sister butt whooping on Pop?
yeah, I need that.
You need the rock bottom and the people's elbow to hit Pops for messing up so much.
Yeah, I need May to come around like a referee, just one,
You
two,
going? She
three.
going to do the countdown?
Yeah,
Like I don't even know. Like it's going to be interesting to see what they have written for him to say in response.
I I have no idea. I don't even. I
Especially
what
since
would
he's like a
you say?
scientist and supposed to be so put. It's different when you have like a devil may care type of character that's just out there and be like, "Yo, it's me. What do you want?" Like,
I definitely feel like I like my prediction for when he does show up for how he's gonna be is like I think he's gonna expect the kids to find him and he's gonna be like welcoming them and with like warmness and be like so happy to see you, like pretending like this whole thing was not terrible and
mm,
crazy. and just just kind of like weirdly ignoring it, and it's just like, oh, I knew you'd find me. We have no time to waste. Let's do whatever we got to do.
Yeah, I don't know, because I don't know if he left clues like that for them specifically. Even though I guess the code to the safe would be a code specifically for them to get, and
And I
how
know
he know they'd be able to figure that out though.
yeah, and I think I'm contradicting myself with well, not I don't know if I'm it's going against my initial hope, which is that I hope this was so poorly planned out, and that if when we do find him, that he's just still kind of bumbling, and but what I'm saying now is that like the way this is kind of going, I feel like when we see him, it might just be a thing of like where he's just oh my God, I'm so happy to see y'all. I knew you would find me or
Mm.
something, you know. Because
What do
why
you
else?
think of what do you think of the kaiju that this different
I
one?
thought it was really cool. I was really happy to see some kaiju action. Um, I thought the ice powers were cool. I don't know why I didn't expect it to have ice powers, even though it's in ice. I don't
Made
know
its
why.
home in Alaska.
Yeah, I was very surprised. I mean, I thought it was so cool when he started freezing the plane. I was like, oh, don't it can't be over for you, boy. I it cracked me up when what's the pilot's name? What's his name?
Duho
Yeah, and Duho when the kaiju started like like
swinging at it.
clawing, yeah,
Yeah.
swinging and clawing the wings off the plane, and Duho's just screaming like at it, just like ferociously, uh, still with hope that he's gonna get out,
Yeah,
like
trying to drive a plane is one of his wings
yeah,
got
just
smashed off.
just
He's still
screaming, yeah,
yeah.
just screaming with determination, just ah.
You're not going nowhere, man.
I'm like,
Nowhere
oh
fast.
no, it's over for you. It can't be.
I knew it was a wrap. I saw. I was like, oh, that's a wrap for him.
Mm-mm-mm.
Finish him. Fatality.
But I thought it looked really cool. I want to look up who designed the kaiju's.
Yeah.
I'm very curious about it because there's a creature designer who I know. You know the Monster Hunter games.
Yes.
I know. I don't know them personally, but I know who the creature designer is for those games. So I'm curious in who it was for the show.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it does look like something that could be on Monster Hunter World.
Hmm.
No, I think that's the last and only one I played of the Monster Hunter games.
Hmm.
But yeah, it was interesting. I liked it. The CGI was really good for this episode for that creature in particular. I
Hmm.
like the glimpse into Godzilla that we got at
Hmm.
the beach, the nuclear beach scene. And if you notice, they did both. You had like old footage of him
Hmm.
before, and I think some of that footage is what we see in this scene. But because we're seeing it as it happens,
Yeah.
it doesn't look like old timey footage. But the footage that we saw on the screen before, when
Hmm.
that because they were supposed to be recording it with that old video camera,
Hmm.
it looks like it's like really old.
Yeah.
But then you see when they had the camera shot that goes up the back of his scales from his tail when he comes out the water,
Hmm.
and then you finally see when he breaches the water and you see his face. That was a dope little scene. Like since we don't see a body, I don't think he's dead. Like I said, he might just have the itis from that snack they gave him, and he's down at the bottom of the ocean rubbing his belly. And when he gets back up, it might be trouble for the general.
I'm interested in the revenge plot for Godzilla.
Oh, you know it's coming.
I'm very curious about it.
Yeah.
I did think um it was interesting to learn in that their dad like was um like that Monarch was the family business
Mm.
in this episode.
Kind of, yeah, because the granddad and grandma started it,
Hmm.
and then he, I think, is the offshoot of them
Hmm.
that inherited everything. They were running around looking for stuff. I'm surprised he didn't do the same though. Like
What do you
maybe
mean?
because he had two families, he had to take both of them. If he had just one family like that, but they started off together. They started off gallivanting around, basically doing this monster hunter thing. Well, they weren't hunting them; they were trying to study them and whatnot.
I just want to know, like, why did you do this? Like, why make two families across? Like, why?
I don't know if we're going to get an explanation. Well, we're going to get some kind of explanation. I don't know if it's going to make any sense because that's super crazy.
Now I'm deeply curious about what kind of man this dad is. Like, what is going on?
He likes science and he likes to get down, man. Those are his two characteristics. And one of those two, he's all right. He's interested in monsters and women. So yeah, it'll be funny to see how they explain that. This was a cool episode. I like the direction and everything. So nothing's really annoying me as yet. Like I said, a couple quirks with a couple of the characters, but I think that's a normal thing. It's a very good show to me.
Mm-hmm.
I think we're getting 10 episodes and not 8. But I'm
Oh,
not,
really?
yeah, I'm not sure about that, but I can, let me see. I had it up on IMDb before. Yeah, it says 10. Because we
Okay.
have the next one we're going to talk about next week is Parallels and Interiors, episode 4. And then 5 comes out Friday. And then they have at least up to 10 episodes scheduled to come out. So it's a longer series because most of the time it's been like, seems like most shows now are like 6 to 8 episodes for some reason.
Mm-hmm.
Used to be like 10 to 12 was like standard, but now it's changing. And I guess it is with depending on how long each episode, of course, and budget too.
Maybe Apple TV just doing it different. I don't know.
Maybe.
Maybe they got different structure over there, where they can manage to have 10 full episodes. Like I don't know how they're cutting or keeping shows in production at Apple TV.
And I don't know how much. The other thing is, I don't know how much each episode costs.
Yeah.
I mean, we can look that up, but I'm assuming from what we saw, it's a pretty decent, and the different locations they've gone to film because
Yeah, it seems like a pretty budget heavy production.
yeah,
So,
Tokyo, and I think they even go out in the desert somewhere, and like Egypt. They're out in a bunch of different locations.
mhm.
So
And
that,
then all the CGI on top of it, it's
yeah,
done pretty well for the show. So
yeah, that's cost monies.
mhm.
So I'm assuming they're spending a decent amount of money per show, and for them to have 10, when like you said, a lot of people are cutting back and canceling shows. They've got so much. There's a lot riding on not only this show but the whole uh, MonsterVerse because they got a new gorilla, Godzilla v Kong, but it's X Kong,
Really?
new Empire or something like that. Yeah, they're going. Have you watched Skull Island yet?
I will. It's on my list this week.
Okay, because and you said you watched Godzilla vs Kong, the first one, right? Where they fight.
If I saw whatever one that was like, it was before the pandemic, I think.
But it was on HBO. They because we couldn't go nowhere.
Yeah.
At that point. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think they're going back to the Hollow Earth. I think is where they found Skull Island, where that was.
Okay.
And then even another further into the dimension, they're going back there. We see some big old gorilla with like all red hair, receding hairline. It's like they got King Kong's got some crazy looking metal gauntlet on his arm, and him and Godzilla's going to fight somebody together. It looks weird. I mean, the CGI looked crazy. You haven't seen the trailer?
No, I mean, is this?
There's another movie coming out.
Okay?
So
I know that there's a Godzilla movie out right now.
Yeah, Godzilla -1 or something like that, or minus something. There's I think an offshoot of Shin Godzilla is out in theaters now, but they have another film coming out where they not only have Godzilla, but they're bringing back King Kong, and they got some baby Kong is in this. I seen in the trailer, and then we see some big yellow gauntlet that King Kong is wearing as Godzilla is running off to chase something, and King Kong is like, "Don't leave without me," and he's running behind him, dragging this gauntlet thing. I was like, I have no idea what this is going to be about, but I mean,
the way you're describing it, it sounds like
You think of what? Watch.
It
Look.
sounds like a 14-year-old boy
I'll send
wrote
you
a fan
when
fiction.
we get done. I'll send you the link. There's a trailer out right now for it. I'm telling you.
I was like, what little boy wrote this?
I mean, that's what most of these movies
I
are.
mean, I
Some,
know. That's why it's so funny to me. I
yeah.
know. It's
This does
yes,
kind of like a little boy playing with his action figures in the bathtub.
yeah,
That's exactly what this is. But they made a movie out of it and
yes.
pumped a couple hundred million into the budget to make it. So it's gonna be dope. We'll see.
It's a 9-year-old little boy and it's a 14-year-old little boy, and they put their visions together. They said, "Oh, what if it's Godzilla and he's got on battle mage armor, and then King Kong, he's got on his gauntlets because he's a berserker, and then they go down and then they fight krakens, but the kraken he's got on pants." All
I
right,
would
but
do
his
it.
pants, he's a wizard. He's a
Yeah,
mage kaiju, kraken. So we got to go down there and I can see it all.
yeah.
Funny.
Kid crackhead stories. I would do it in a heartbeat. If we could set up a little lab with some microphones and have the parents sign something and have these kids just make up stories and we go develop. I would go for it.
I don't know if you
It'll
ever
probably be more interesting than half the stuff that gets put out there anyway.
truly, I don't know if you ever watched Dexter's Laboratory, but they did one episode of that show where I think it was the director's son. I think he basically wrote an episode and he had his son do a voiceover of the whole episode, and
Okay.
they drew it out as like a crayon drawing of
Mm.
his son talking through what is happening in the whole episode. It is so cute. Like his son is like, and then Mandark blows up the whole world, uh, and then it's just Mandark's, and then his head is raining from the sky, and they drew it all out
Yeah,
as his son is talking through it.
I'm
It's so
down. Yeah,
cute and cool and good.
it might be. I think Jordan, when we were talking about it earlier, is basically he was saying it seemed like Godzilla and Kong is going the way of the Fast and the Furious series. How it just gets even more ridiculous. But like you already started out ridiculous. Like it
Did I,
was ridiculous before you got started. So now how you gonna make that even more ridiculous?
did I tell you that all right, so I had only seen one Fast and Furious movie, and it was Tokyo Drift. All right, I was on the plane to Denver, and I was like, all right, let's watch a movie. They had the most recent Fast and Furious movie on there, so I was like, all right, well, let's watch it. I had no idea what Fast and Furious really was outside of Tokyo Drift, and I
Yeah,
was just like, this is. I was I was like, this is car superheroes. Like,
basically. And go out into space and all types of crazy stuff. It started out as just racing, and now it ain't racing no more.
I was like, what is this?
It got to a point where I almost refused to watch them just because they were getting so ridiculous. And I saw the old ass car in space, and they didn't have spacesuits. I'm like, no, I'm not. We're not doing this right now. This is I
I'm
can't do
sorry.
it.
I don't even know what the context of that movie is, but all I can picture is like just a car just still like just floating up into
Yeah,
space.
I'm like, I'm cool.
Like,
So yeah, that's what they're doing. It seems like that's what they're going to do with this Godzilla, and of course, because there are so many other kaiju and other monsters to bring out. We got. Did you see Godzilla King of Monsters?
uh-uh.
Because I think that came out a couple years after the 2015 Godzilla and before Skull Island. I could be wrong on that, but yeah,
Okay.
there's and the old school Godzilla films. They have so many more. I'm so glad they're beyond paper mache monsters, though. Just some dude in a paper mache suit stomping on a miniature of the city, which were cool back when I first saw them, but now we were like that wouldn't fly. We'd be ripping this thing to shreds.
Mhm.
So I'm cool. I'm curious to see where they're going with this. If we're going to get the explanation of how Shaw is staying young at 90 something, and he looks like he's 60.
Maybe
We'll
it's
see.
reverse radiation or something.
Yeah, reverse radiation. We'll see. But I guess we'll catch up next week. Talk about the fourth episode. I appreciate. Hopefully, the whole crew will be back with us by then. Jordan and Andrea hopefully will be back, and then we'll keep the discussion going. And I'm not sure if you froze, but I see three lurkers that have been watching. I know Monica commented. Appreciate you for taking the time out of your day to listen to us. Jocelyn, thank you again for taking the time out of your day to chop it up with me about these things. And we will talk to you all next week. Peace.